One of my biggest gripes is that I try to be very, very nice to my Christian listeners.
Yes, we have noticed that.
I'm very grateful for them. I have wonderful conversations with Christians. I'm deeply interested in Christianity.
Well, me as well, but your critics don't criticize you for being interested in things. Your critics, for example me, are addressing you for another issue, which is not applying enough critical thinking to the statements that the guests in your podcast make. Your show more and more looks like an episode of Telcel, where the stuff that results in the highest commission is being promoted.
But people on the internet keep saying that I'm about to convert. And it's because, for me...
No, that's more of a way to ridicule the way your podcast has been developing for the past year. But it's not the real problem that many people have with your recent work. Again, the issue here is you applying less and less critical thinking and generating very little to no intellectual pushback against many of the obviously very flawed claims and arguments that some of your guests are making. We've always tuned in for your capacity to critically address that kind of poor reasoning, but lately it looks as if that is no longer your priority.
For me, it's just the lowest bar in the history of intellectual thought that me not saying to people, they're a bunch of idiots and they've got absolutely nothing going for them. The only way that can possibly be explained, that I'm actually listening to them and hearing them out and going, that's really interesting, actually, it can only be because I'm about to convert to Christianity.
Oh, wow. So now your critics are the lowest bar in the history of intellectual thought. It's really ironic that the actual point of many of your critics is that you are lowering your intellectual bar by repeatedly offering your platform to endless, fallacious, religious rambling that is not supported by any sufficient evidence, without confronting it with a credible level of critical pushback. You're now just projecting the issues of your own show on your critics. And in a rather deceiving way, if I might add. You're now trying to pull a false dilemma on us. Let's listen to that again.
That me not saying to people, they're a bunch of idiots and they've got absolutely nothing going for them.
Now, that's a textbook case of a false dilemma. Either letting your guests rambling on and on, making unsubstantiated God claim after unsubstantiated God claim, or you telling your guests that they are a bunch of idiots. Those are not the only two options, are they? Shall I help you out a bit? How about you saying, for example, to John Lennox, look, you've now assumed the existence of your God 5 times during the last minute. What would be your best evidence that proves the existence of your God? Or how about giving some pushback when Lennox accused atheism of building the Berlin Wall? How about you telling Lennox that there is an easy explanation for the problem of evil, being the possibility that his God does not exist? How about asking Lennox if he ever seriously questioned the existence of his own God? How about you asking Lennox, hey, what's up with your God drowning babies and children in the Genesis part of the Bible? Do you approve of that? Applying critical thinking to the things that people believe and say. Have you forgotten how that works? You don't need to call him an idiot if you don't like that. Your rebuttal really doesn't make any sense. You can easily apply critical thinking to your Christian guests without calling them idiots, as I have demonstrated a minute ago. Stop pretending, Alex. It's insulting to a low-bar intellect. Why am I, a totally average atheist YouTuber, reminding you, an established Oxford philosopher, how to ask people critical questions without calling them idiots?
The only way that can possibly be explained, that I'm actually listening to them and hearing them out and going, that's really interesting, actually, it can only be because I'm about to convert to Christianity. And man, it gets on my nerves because people do it on like YouTube shorts. There's this one YouTube short of me, which people keep telling me about because they see it on their feed, that someone made. And it's like me speaking on a podcast, and they put that music in the background, all that kind of stuff. And I'm saying, there's the story of Jesus. If you go and look at the podcast, the very next words out of my mouth are, but of course, most scholars believe that this was a later interpolation.
Right,
it wasn't originally in the Bible, and so, it didn't really happen. Right? That's why I was talking about it.
It doesn't matter, brother. The Lord is drawing you to Him.
And you know what? The person who made that reel knows that's the next thing I said. They know that.
Of course, because they had to edit it,
and they put the music and everything. I'm just like, come on, man.
Well,
it's just
so
yeah. I can understand that that is annoying, but those people are just trolling you a bit, and as it seems you're now focusing on these troll videos, while you keep silent about the real issues that many of us are criticizing you for. And it almost seems as if you're distracting from the real issue by presenting us a false dilemma. Your false dilemma is extra special sophisticated, because not only do you only offer us two options, you also offer us only one explanation for that false dilemma. Supposedly, you soon to be converted to Christianity. You pretend that that is the only explanation that your low-bar intellectual critics can come up with, while in reality, the much more obvious solution to your false dilemma is what many people, including myself, have been suggesting for a while now, and that is that you're probably not converting to Christianity, but you might have made a very practical calculation. There are more views, more clicks, more book sales, ticket sales, and sponsorship deals in Now and Then offering a totally uncritical platform to Christian apologists. They bring in an extra audience that brings you extra money. Your interviews with John Lennox and Trent Horn are your most successful videos of the past 4 months. They are the 2 videos with the largest number of views out of your last 20 videos. Those 2 videos alone have a combined number of over 1 million views. The ad revenue, the book sales and the sponsorship deals for those 2 videos alone might just be in the thousands of dollars. So many of us think that that is what's going on here. And it's not that we don't understand that we all need to make money in life. But from our side, and then I mean those of us on the atheistic side, who think it's important to critically assess religious claims, we might be less interested in your videos if you keep offering a platform to people who are promoting religion without you giving them any meaningful pushback. Because the typical well-phrased intellectual pushback that you've been giving for the past 10 years or so is one of the most important reasons why we have been loyal to you and your channel. If you now start the process of taking away that intellectual pushback, then please understand that we might take away our views from you. I think it would have been a bit more appropriate for you to express some understanding towards your critics, instead of presenting us a double false dilemma and focusing on one specific kind of trolling critics and call them the lowest bar in the history of intellectual thought. That's practically you calling them idiots, and I thought you didn't like to do that. Why didn't you call Lennox a low bar intellect when he struggled to find solutions for the problem of evil? Hello, perhaps your God doesn't exist. That would explain every question you ever had about the mysterious actions of your supposed God. And you used to sing much better in the past. But apart from that, Alex, I think my point is clear, but let me wrap this video up with one final thought. Lately, your appetite for critically approaching bad ideas seems to have retracted a bit. You're getting more and more careful with your words, and I don't think that's a good development. I liked you much more when you were still calling people idiots, because some people are idiots, and we need to address them as such in order to warn the public for their dangerous ideas. I'm not telling you that your recent guests are idiots and that you should have labeled them as such, but I do think we should never shy away from exposing real idiots for what they are, because that is the core of our freedom of speech, and it helps us to protect our societies from being taken over by charlatans and fools. I think it's your job as a philosophy communicator to critically assess ideas and call them out for being stupid if needed. Stepping away from that makes you more of an afternoon product placement talk show host, and we've got enough of those. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Thanks for watching.